take it, but I don't wear it because it's offered to our deities. When we go home, we offer it to the deities. That's why. Thank you. What's the slide? Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Nandana Vraja Janaranjana Yasodhanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Anachari Yamuna Tira Anachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Nandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Nandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Thank you. Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gora Hari Bol Nitai Gora Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gora Hari Bol Namo Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivarachakacharya Asatara Sata His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Sundar Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Vrindavan Dham Ki Mathura Dham Navadvip Dham Ki Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Ganga Mai Ki Yamuna Mai Ki Tulsi Devi Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Brihad Mirdanga Ki Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Jai Hare Nam Sankirtan Ki Jai All glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna All glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. You tell me if it works. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So the class today will be based on the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 46, Verse 5. Verse 5. Verse 4 was given yesterday, but I'm going to read the translation of verse 4 because 4 and 5 and 6 go together, especially 4 and 5. So let me read the translation of verse 4, and then we will do the word by word, etc. Translation of verse number 4. The minds of those gopis are always absorbed in me, and their very lives are ever devoted to me. For my sake, they have abandoned everything related to their bodies, renouncing ordinary happiness in this life, as well as religious duties necessary for such happiness in the next life. I alone am their dear most beloved, and indeed their very self. I personally sustain such devotees who for my sake give up all worldly duties. So these two verses, yesterday's and today's, deal with the expression from the heart of Sri Krishna about the role that the gopis play in his life. So this is verse number 5. Mayita preya samprashte Duraste Gokulastriyaha Smarantyanga vimuhyanti Virahavtkantya vivalaha Mayita preyasam prashte Duraste Gokulastriyaha Smarantyanga vimuhyanti Virahavtkantya vivalaha Mayita preyasam prashte Duraste Gokulastriyaha Smarantyanga vimuhyanti Virahavtkantya vivalaha. Devotees. Ayita preyasam prashte Duraste Gokulastriyaha Smarantyanga vimuhyanti Virahavtkantya vivalaha Mayita preyasam prashte Duraste Gokulastriyaha Smarantyanga Virahavtkantya vivalaha. Anybody else? Mai, I, Taha, they, preyasam, of all objects of endearment. Prashte, the most dear. Duraste, being far away. Gokula Striyaha, the women of Gokula. Smarantyaha, remembering. Anga, dear Uddhava. Vimuhyanti, becomes stunned. Viraha, of separation. Utkantya, by the anxiety. Vivalaha, overwhelmed. Translation and purport and commentaries by the Acharyas. Translation. My dear Uddhava, for those women of Gokula, I am the most cherished object of love. Thus, when they remember me, who am so far away, they are overwhelmed by the anxiety of separation. So let's read this together, everybody. My dear Uddhava, for those women of Gokula, I am the most cherished object of love. Thus, when they remember me, who am so far away, they are overwhelmed by the anxiety of separation. Purport. Whatever is dear to us becomes an object of our possessiveness. Ultimately, the most dear object is our very soul, our very self. Thus, things in a favorable relationship to ourselves also become dear to us, and we try to possess them. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti, among countless millions of such dear things, Sri Krishna is the most dear of all, even dearer than one's own self. And we will see how the gopis speak. They will make this point. Not philosophically, but just from the prema, from the overwhelming prema that they have. The gopis had realized this fact, and thus they were stunned in separation from the Lord because of their intense love for Him. although they would have given up their lives, they were kept alive by the Lord's transcendental potency. Om Jnanatirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militanyena Asma Shri Gurave Namaha Chaitanya Manavishtan Stapitanyena Patale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swabhaka. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishavanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Vanchakalpataruyascha Kripa Sindhuyevacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Mad Gadadhar Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And it's not just the ones, we are not just the ones who are chanting the Mahamantra, the gopis are also chanting Krishna's names. We will see that in this, one of the commentaries here in this verse number 5. So I'm going to go ahead and read 4 and 5 together, and then I'll read the commentaries by the acharyas. So because 4 and 5 are together pretty much. The minds of those gopis are always absorbed in me, and their very lives are ever devoted to me. For my sake, they have abandoned everything related to their bodies, renouncing ordinary happiness in this life, as well as religious duties necessary for such happiness in the next life. I alone am their dear most beloved, and indeed their very self. I personally sustain such devotees who for my sake give up all worldly duties. This is another important point because we will see how Krishna is very partial to those who are devoted to him. And that includes us, whatever our level is. And verse number 5, my dear Uddhava, for those women of Gokula, I am the most cherished object of love. Thus, when they remember me, who am so far away, they are overwhelmed by the anxiety of separation. So we heard the purport, and now we're going to listen to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Srila Goswami, and Sanatana Goswami. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, if you are their mind, prana, the dear most, and their soul, why do they not come here to Mathura? What can they do remaining in Vraj? This verse answers the question. These women of Gokula fixed their minds on me, dressed as a cowherd boy, and ornamented with peacock feathers, flute, gunja berries, and clay. I also do not desire to bring them here. Why should they come to Mathura? Krishna himself is saying, why should I bring them here? Objects of attachment are dear. The object of self-identity, the soul, is dear. But if the one soul becomes many among millions of souls, there is the dear most. If there are some objects dear among millions of souls, among those dear objects, I am the most dear. Thus, if I, dear most among all dear objects, am in a far-off place, the gopis become bewildered and faint, though by my inconceivable yoga maya energy, they maintain not possible for them to continue living. So you've noticed that in verse 4 and 5, Krishna is described over and over again in just a few lines as being the dear most object of love for the gopis. And so Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is also expressing this point, because this is the point that is central to our devotional practices. Srila Jiva Goswami writes, since they have absorbed their minds in you, they have attained you. Why should you worry about them? Internally, they are absorbed in me, but externally, they have become very disturbed. That's another interesting point. They are completely absorbed in the Supreme Lord, in thoughts of their beloved, but externally appear very disturbed. That is described in this verse. As women of Gokula, they can maintain their lives only by seeing me. That is their extraordinary nature. The superlative degree in Prashta indicates an object which surpasses all others. So we have the superlative, which is the topmost, like good, comparative, better, superlative, best. Dear, more dear, most dear. So this is the superlative, this is the highest of all, is the absolute superlative, because there is also a comparative superlative. That is Priya or dear, which is the object of complete possessiveness. And so we know this principle of mamata, that Krishna is mine, and also mamata on the part of Krishna. I am Krishna's, I belong to Krishna. That is dear, which is Atma, with identity as I. So we are very attached to our own self, and our own self really is the I, and the I is nothing but the pure spirit soul. If there are many such objects among them all, that which surpasses them all, which is dearer than all things related to me, is dearest, and the word is prashti. When I am close, they express sentiments like, we can eagerly look upon your beautiful face, so lovely, with its adornment of curly locks. And this is a quote from the Song of Separation, that chapter 31 in Canto 10. However, now I am far away. They remember that I am far away. Or thinking about it, they faint. They think for a short time and faint for a long time. Ah, what misfortune. They cannot even think of me. So what is it that Krishna is talking about? It's this misfortune. What is the misfortune? I'll read this again. See if you can give me an answer. On thinking about it, about me, they faint. They think for a short time and faint for a long time. Ah, what misfortune. Why is this a misfortune? What's Krishna saying that this is a misfortune? Is it because they're fainting? Any thoughts? They're suffering from tremendous separation. Because they cannot remember. They think about Krishna for a little bit and then they faint. And when they faint, they just cannot think of anything. And that's why Krishna says, ah, what misfortune. What's that? Maybe they're with him when they're fainted. They're always with him. Why are they not with him? They cannot even think of me. The present tense is used to show that repeatedly they think and faint. It happens over and over and over. The cause of fainting is their exhaustion from longing in separation. Their longing in separation is so intense that they become exhausted. And when they become exhausted, they have no energy left and they faint. They drool. This is a symptom of the abhichari bhava called pasmara, or epileptic fit. So it was said that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, some people thought they could understand that he was having epileptic fits when he was actually in extreme states of prema. Na vidamaha kashmalena kavaram vasanamba. We are unaware that our hair and garments are slackening. And this is a reference to chapter 35, verse 17. However, now with their extreme symptoms known everywhere, I am embarrassed. That's Krishna speaking. Listen carefully. Now, with their extreme symptoms known everywhere, the gopi symptoms known everywhere, I am embarrassed to go there. Krishna feels embarrassed to go there because now everybody's aware that these gopis have these extreme symptoms of longing and separation. In this stress, Krishna calls out Anga. Anga means a limb. And Anga is going to be the person who's been deputed by Krishna to go and talk to his parents, to his friends, and especially to the gopis. Also it means, Uddhava, you are my limb. You're part of me. You're like me. You're my limb. This gives courage to Uddhava to console the gopis. In other words, Krishna deputes Uddhava to go talk to the gopis, and by saying that you are my limb, then Uddhava feels completely encouraged to perform that function in the name of the Lord. Sanatana Goswami says, their pain is more than mine. And it's a fact. It is a fact, because remember that verse where it says, there is no way I can repay you for your love. Let your experience and your service be your compensation. He says that to the gopis. There's no way I can repay you. And that is the Supreme Lord saying, your love is so super excellent and so superior. And therefore, he says now, through the pen of Sanatana Goswami, their pain is more than mine, because their love is more than mine. Their love for me is more than my love for them. That is expressed in 2 verses. These women of Gokula have indescribable love, and they are dedicated fully to me. Being women living in Vraj, their love is greater than mine. Among all dear persons, I am dearest to them, but I live far away in Mathura. So the distance, the physical distance, is not what makes them think that they're very far from Krishna, is the longing for their separation. Because actually Mathura is not Vrindavan. In great pain of separation, longing to see me, they remember me, or they remember the rasa dance. Or they softly chant, Krishna, Krishna, since it is impossible to forget me. Now this is a lesson for us. How can we always be connected with the Supreme Lord? By saying Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. And we can do that, Krishna, Krishna, anytime, under any circumstances, at any point, anywhere, in any manner. So then we have the Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this is what the gopis are. When there is nothing left for them, all they can do is say, Krishna, Krishna. And they are connected. They are always connected. They become completely bewildered, or they faint. They fall on the ground and remain there. Oh, friend with limbs similar to mine. He's talking about Uddhava. Oh, dear friend, you alone understand this. That's an important point, because in the Gopal Champu, there are a few lines that explain how he goes to Uddhava to commission him to go to Braj and to give solace to the inhabitants of Vrindavan. Because so many are selected, so many. One of them is that Uddhava is the disciple, the direct disciple of Brihaspati, and he's learned everything from Brihaspati except for one thing. And that's why he's going to Vraj. He hasn't learned from Brihaspati something that was not available to Brihaspati. Now, which is that? The science of perfect love. Krishna Prema. Brihaspati couldn't teach him that because he had no access to it. Yet, Uddhava is aware of the majesty and also aware of the sweetness. So, being aware of the majesty of the Supreme Lord, he can actually vouch for him as being the most super excellent person. And being aware of the madhurya, in other words, the sweetness, he can also understand the hearts of the inhabitants of Vrindavan, especially the hearts of his parents and the gopis. So having this double ability to understand, besides the fact that Uddhava is extremely bright, he is the perfect person to go and try to console the inhabitants of Vrindavan. I'm going to read a paragraph from the Krishna book, and then we will see what the gopis are saying in the Song of Separation, which is chapter 31 in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10. It's okay, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. Okay, so. This is the paragraph that continues what Santosh was reading yesterday, but it also pertains to this. Lord Krishna is also named Hari, which means one who takes away all distress from the surrendered souls. Again, this is from the Krishna book, chapter 46. Lord Chaitanya states that there cannot be at any time a worship as exalted as that realized by the gopis. Being very anxious about the gopis' grief, Krishna talked with Uddhava and politely requested him to go to Vrindavan. Shaking Uddhava's hand with his own hands, he said, "My dear gentle friend Uddhava, please go immediately to Vrindavan and try to pacify my mother and father, Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Devi, and the gopis." When Krishna meets with Uddhava, Krishna is very emotional, but Uddhava is also very emotional. And so Krishna holds Uddhava's hand, which is wet from tears, while tears are falling from Krishna's face. And because he's so dear to him, he's giving him this very, very supremely most confidential task to go and try to pacify father, mother, and gopis. They are grief-stricken, as if suffering from great ailments. Go and give them a message. I hope their ailments will be partially relieved. In another place it is explained, actually it was in the commentaries here in the Bhagavatam, but the previous verse, that you can pacify them. You can relieve their distress, but you cannot give them joy. Even though the word Uddhava also means festival, and he represents all types of joy. But you cannot give them happiness. What you can do is just relieve their distress. The gopis, going back to the Krishna book, the gopis are always absorbed in thoughts of me. They have dedicated body, desire, life, and soul to me. I am anxious not only for the gopis, but for anyone who sacrifices society, friendship, love, and personal comforts to me. This is a very important line. The next one. It is my duty to protect such exalted devotees. So again, I was hinting before how Krishna feels that it is his duty to protect those who are surrendering to him. So in our case, we are attempting to surrender to the Supreme Lord. Some of you are fully surrendered, some of us maybe just barely starting to become surrendered. But as soon as Krishna sees that we have the desire to surrender to him in due course of time, as our consciousness becomes purified through the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. He takes it upon himself as a duty to protect all of us. How wonderful that is. We have no fear because we know that Krishna is personally in our lives, protecting us against anything that would separate us from Him. It is my duty to protect such exalted devotees. The gopis are the most dear. They always think of me in such a way that they remain overwhelmed and almost dead in anxiety due to separation from me. And of course, this almost dead in anxiety due to separation from me, it only indicates that their prema, the churning of their prema in their hearts, is so intense that they are experiencing the greatest pleasure. The greatest pleasure. Even though externally they may appear to be suffering like anything. They are keeping alive simply by thinking that I'm returning to them very soon. So, this Monday, my husband and I went to a temple that is run by some devotees from Orissa. It's not an ISKCON temple, it's a different temple. So one of the things that we heard, I think, is that their guru, the guru who left the body how many years ago, about 60 years ago, something like that? Okay, almost 85 years ago, had to go through a lot of steps in order to come to the highest level. And so his whole life was dedicated to first karma yoga, then jnana yoga, then yoga, ashtanga yoga, meditation process, development of cities, etc. And finally, after many years, he was perfecting every one of those steps. Finally, he may have met a Vaishnava devotee who taught him about bhakti yoga. So here is Srila Prabhupada who is saying, don't bother with all these other steps. Just come directly to connect with the Supreme Lord in the process of bhakti yoga, which is what Krishna is recommending in chapter 12 of the Bhagavad Gita. There is no higher process but the process of bhakti. And so Prabhupada is saying, don't just go around the steps, all the way go to the top. It takes you forever. You have to endeavor so much. You have to go through so many difficulties and austerities to reach certain levels of understanding. Just take the elevator and just come up with me. I'm taking you upstairs to the highest level, bhakti yoga. So I was meditating on this because the philosophies can be very convoluted. The different ways in which people follow the Vedic principles and study the scriptures and apply the Vedic scriptures can be very, very difficult and very convoluted, and they don't lead very far. They don't go very far. But here we are, devotees of Shri Radha and Krishna, Radha Golokananda, practicing the process of pure devotion, whether we're there or we're getting there or we're far from there, but we're already on the right path. Krishna considers himself responsible for our improvement. He considers that he has a duty to take care of those who are super exalted personalities who have accepted that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, that the process of bhakti is topmost, and who are endeavoring to get to perfection of their lives by following the guidance of the Guru, Shri Gurudev, who is enabling himself, putting himself down to inspire us step by step to make progress in our spiritual lives. So we are members of Kali Yuga. So because we're members of Kali Yuga, there are some things that are not really so savory about our natures. It cannot be helped. That's part of who we are. But the fact of the matter that the devotees of the Lord are actually following a process that eventually leads to perfection. It may take some time. That makes it very special, and Krishna is very pleased with that. Very pleased. And then we see, for example, in the Christian faith, there are so many groups, so many denominations, and the understanding is very sketchy. Sometimes they have more understanding, more in the line of devotion, for example, in the Catholic Church, where they have a greater understanding of the need to practice the process of devotion whatever way they're capable. And here we are, Krishna is just handing down all the instructions in the form of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, for us to follow. How very fortunate we are, and how we have to respect each and every member of the Krishna consciousness movement, because we have accepted, they have accepted, the process of pure devotional service is just a matter of time. After being around for so many lifetimes, finally coming to this point, whether we deserve it or not, mostly we don't deserve to be here. It's been finally, we're coming to the last part of the whole thing and getting ready to eventually get to the spiritual world. So I'm not sure about the time, but I would like to hear your comments and your questions if you have any, or realizations. We have about 4 minutes, and I could continue reading, but I think it's more important for you to express yourselves if you would like to, or ask questions, or share something valuable that we can all use, practice. Silence is very loud. The silence is very loud. It speaks volumes. Everybody's immersed in Krishna Prema. So I'm going to read, because everybody's ready to faint. I'm going to read some verses from the 31st canto, which is the Song of Separation of the Gopis, starting with verse number 8. Oh, lotus-eyed one, this is the Gopis reminiscing and longing for the Supreme Lord in separation. Your sweet voice and charming words, which attract the minds of the intelligent, are bewildering us more and more. Our dear hero, please revive your maidservants with the nectar of your lips. The nectar of your words and the descriptions of your activities are the life and soul of those suffering in this material world. Very important. The nectar of your words and the descriptions of your activities are the life and soul of those suffering in this material world. That's us, all of us. These narrations, transmitted by learned sages, eradicate one's sinful reactions and bestow good fortune upon whoever hears them, upon whomever hears them. These narrations are broadcast all over the world and are filled with spiritual power. Certainly those who spread the message of Godhead are most beneficent. And this verse we'll know, Tavakatam ritam tatta jivanam kavivir iditam kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Srimadhatatam Bhuvigrinantiye Puridajanam. So this is verse number 9. And in verse number 10, your smiles, your sweet loving glances, the intimate pastimes and confidential talks we enjoyed with you, all these are auspicious to meditate upon, and they touch our hearts. But at the same time, O deceiver, they very much agitate our minds. So we can take stock of these verses, because this is the way in which can become endeared to the Supreme Lord, and He will eventually manifest Himself. And the last verse I'm going to read is Chalasi yad prayach charayam pachum nalina sundaram nattate padam Shilatrinangurai Siddhatinaha Kalilatamana Kantagachati. Dear Master, dear lover, when you leave the Kahar village to herd the cows, our minds are disturbed with the thought that your feet, more beautiful than a lotus, will be pricked by the spiked husk of grain and the rough grass and plants. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Kanvandam Maravindadalayataksham Bharhavatam Samasitam Buddhasundarangam Kandar Bhagom Vidamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasa Sakalen Priya Priti Manti Vasyanti Panti Kayanti Chiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami 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 Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham
Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate Gokula Tarani Mandala Mahite. Gokula Tarani Mandala Mahite. Gokula Tarani Mandala Mahite. Gokula Tarani Mandala Mahite. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate. Radhe Jaya Madhava Dayate. Damodara Rati Vardhana Veshe Hari Nishkuta Brinda Vipineshe. 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 Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate. Radhe Jaya Madhava Dayate. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate. Rishabhanu Dadi Navashashi Leke Lalita Sakti Guna Ramita Vishake. Rishabhanu Dadi Navashashi Leke Lalita Sakti Guna Ramita Vishake. Rishabhanu Dadi Navashashi Leke Lalita Sakti Guna Ramita Vishake. Rishabhanu Dadi Navashashi Leke Lalita Sakti Guna Ramita Vishake. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate. Radhe Jaya Madhava Dayate. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate. Radhe Jaya Madhava Dayate. Karunam Kurumai Karuna Bharate. Sanaka Sanatana Varnita Charite. 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 Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate. Radhe Jaya Madhava Dayate. Jaya Radha Golokananda Radha Golokananda Radhe Jaya Radha Nanda Radha Golokananda Radha Jaya Radha Golokananda Radha Golokananda Radhe Jaya Radha Golokananda Radha Nanda Radhe Jaya Giri Govardhan Giri Govardhan Giri Govardhan Jaya, Giri Govardhan Jaya, Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan Jaya, Giri Govardhan Jaya, Giri Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Shri Gauranitai ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Lokananda ki jai, jai 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 Shri Radhe Sham. O Radha, all glories unto you, all glories unto you, beloved of Madhava, objects of worship for all the young girls of Gokula. You dress yourself in such a way as to increase Lord Damodar's love and attachment for you. You are the controller of Vrindavan, the pleasure groves of Lord Hari. You are a new moon arisen from the ocean of King Vrishabhanu. You are the friend of Lalita, and your wonderful qualities, friendliness, kindness, and faithfulness to Krishna, endear you to Vishaka. You are an ocean of compassion, and your divine characteristics are described by the four Kumaras, Sanaka, Sanatana, Sananda, and Sanat Kumara. O Radha, please be merciful to me. Rupa Goswami ki jai, Srila Rupa Manjari ki jai. Chaito Darpanam Marjanam, Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam, Shreya Kairavya Chandrika Vitaranam, Pratipanam Pranamrita Swadanam, Sarvatma Snapanam, Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam, Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis, Tatrapitani Amita Smaranena Kala, Etadrishita Vakripa Bhagavan Mamapi, Durdaiva Midrishami Hajjani Nanuraga, Trinada Pisunichena, Tarora Pisuhishuna, Amanina Manadena, Kirtaniya Sadahari, Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim, Kavitam Va Jagadisha Kamaye, Mama Janmani Janmani Ishvare, Bhavatad Bhaktir Hoitaki Twayi, Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram, Patitamam Vishame Bhavam Buddha, Kripayata Vapada Pankaja, Stita Duli Sajashim Vachintaya, Nayanam Galadavashu Daraya, Vadanam Gadgadara Pulakarnishitam Vapukada, Tavanamagrahane Bhavishyati, Yugayatam Namishena, Chakshusha Pravashayatam, Shunayatam Jagat Sarvam Govindam Virahename, Ashlisha Vapadam Ritam Manastumam, Adarshanam Marmahatakarotuva, Yatatatava Vidatolam Patomat Prananatastu Saiva Napara. Victory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, congregational chanting of your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you've invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than a straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O Son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace or makes me brokenhearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he's always my worshipful Lord unconditionally. Yeah. Next Harinam will be on Saturday between 11:30 and 1 o'clock at Weaver Street Market here in Hillsborough. Coming up Saturday.